So why study history? There are so many reasons why you should choose this subject and why you should study it, but I've tried to sum it down into 5 different areas here. So over the 2-year course, we're going to be learning about different people. We're going to be learning about different countries, not just England and the United Kingdom. We're going to be looking into Europe as well, and globally too, about different societies and cultures. One of the key things that you'll learn as we go through our history qualification is the ability to sift and locate facts. This is going to be really vital, not only in this subject, but it will also be a transferable skill. We're also going to be practicing the communication of your ideas in a way that makes sense, not only to you, but also to others as well. And also, as we have been since year 7, like the other things as well, we're going to be using evidence to try and make decisions, because that is something that is vital in some of your examination units. So from the start of year 7, when you did that first baseline, all the way through to the end, everything that you have been doing at Key Stage 3 will enable you to access and succeed at GCSE level in this subject. So what will I be studying? This is what you really want to know. Now, we have 4 units. There are 3 exams. The first paper is a thematic study. We look at medicine through time, which is from 1250 to the present day. We're looking at things like Hippocrates and Galen's influence in the medieval world, the influence of the power of the church and then the decline of the power of the church, and how that led to the growth of science during the Renaissance. We're going to be looking at the developments of the vaccination, the developments of better public health during the 19th century, leading us to the creation of the NHS. All of these things are things that should be relevant to you, things that you will recognise and are really exciting. I love this unit. It is a really exciting thing to learn about. Within paper 1, we also look at an extension study, and this is the British sector of the Western Front. During this unit, what we are looking at are the skills and the ideas of the medicine unit, but focused in a particular historic context. And for this, it is between 1914 and 1918, around the Ypres salient and also going into France as well. So the whole of the Western Front, essentially, where the British forces were. Now, as we go through this unit, we'll look at the impact of war, we'll look at the different battles that there were, we'll look at the impact of weaponry on the different injuries that the men would have faced. But we're also going to be looking at the new developing treatments that came out of this. So, for instance, plastic surgery, the development of the Thomas splint, and also of blood banks. Paper 2, there are 2 units for paper 2. The first one that we look at, the superpower relations of the Cold War. This is a brand new unit. This is something that you would have touched upon in year 9, but you wouldn't have studied it in any great depth before. Now, this is really looking at the tensions that there are between the USA and the USSR, and we're looking at how those increase and decrease and the reasons why that happens. We're really trying to understand the narrative behind this Cold War period, why there was a war that didn't actually result in any fighting. The closest we got to a nuclear war at this particular point, and we will be looking at the Cuban Missile Crisis during our study of this topic. The other unit that we look at for paper 2 is our British depth study, and this is on Henry VIII and his ministers. Now, this one specifically, we're going to be looking at the role of 2 of Henry's most important men, and that is the role of Cardinal Wolsey, but also that of Thomas Cromwell as well. We're going to be looking at how those 2 men helped to influence and shape Britain, or England, should I say, under the reign of Henry VIII. It's going to be looking at the politics, the foreign policy. We're going to be looking at the social aspect as well, and how this impacted the rest of the population of England at this time. And really, we're going to be looking at as well the religious aspect of Henry's reign, how his desire and drive to have a male heir led to the break from the Catholic Church and the creation of the Church of England, with looking at the Reformation and the dissolution of the monasteries. Very exciting unit, and something the students will be familiar with as they come up to GCSE. Our final paper is our modern depth study, and this is looking at Weimar and Nazi Germany, probably one of the most favoured units that we look at GCSE. This is looking from the end of the First World War and how that had a massive impact on German society and German politics, and how that whole situation in the early 1920s, moving to the late 1920s with the impact of the Wall Street crash, allowed Hitler and the Nazi Party to gain momentum and to establish themselves in power, leading to then us looking at the social policies, the economic policies that Hitler and the Nazi Party created to make sure that they established, consolidated and maintained their power. So, how will I be assessed? As I said, there are 3 papers. There's a breakdown on the screen right now. You can see that paper 2 is more heavily weighted. It's a bigger paper. There are 2 units in which you are studying for that one. And interestingly, this is the one where it's just based on knowledge. So in paper 1, you've got knowledge, your ability to answer the questions, and looking at source work, which is AO3. So I'm looking at the assessment objectives. In paper 3, you are assessed on all 4 of the assessment objectives: your knowledge, your ability to create an argument, source work, and also looking at interpretations. These are things that we've touched upon at Key Stage 3 and what we will continue to develop during your GCSE study. So, career opportunities. There are so many different things that you can do with the history qualification. Everyone goes, oh, you can only be a history teacher. There are many more things that you can do. Heritage. You can work for television companies as researchers and you can help create those historic dramas. You can go into and you can combine different subjects as well. If you had a real keen interest in fashion and you really liked history, you could see whether there is an opportunity for you to look at historic costume. And that could lead you into a career of creating costumes for different dramas and things like that. The list I've put on the side there is not the only things that you can do. The list is exhaustive and really you just need to have a think and speak to our careers advisor to understand different things that you can do with your history qualification.